Before the world turned its eyes to the grandeur of Rome or the mystique of Persia, there was another empire. Silent, resilient and powerful, an empire that shaped the heartbeat of ancient Africa. Imagine an age when trade was the lifeblood of civilization, when ships laden with gold, ivory and frankincense sailed the vast Red Sea, their masts rising like fingers pointing to the heavens. This was the Aksumite Empire, an African powerhouse once as significant as any other in the ancient world, yet almost forgotten in the haze of time. What if I told you that Africa held a powerhouse kingdom that rivaled the world's greatest empires, yet has largely been forgotten? In a land we now call Ethiopia and Eritrea, the Aksumite Empire thrived, a kingdom unlike any other, flourishing from the 1st century until its decline nearly a millennium later. Aksum was not only a kingdom of wealth, but also of spirit and innovation. It was here that Africa minted its own coins, here that one of the world's first Christian states was born, here that colossal monuments rose skyward as a testament to human ambition. But why, you might wonder, did history's spotlight bypass this remarkable civilization? Was it the loss of trade routes, the rise of competing empires, or simply the relentless march of time? Or perhaps Aksum's story stands apart, away from the familiar narratives, a chapter of African heritage that defies the usual records. Today, we delve into that mystery, unveiling the life, culture and triumphs of an empire that connected the ancient world, a story you've likely never heard but will never forget. Now, let's step beyond the high walls of history's grand narrative, beyond the thrones and battles, and into the beating heart of Aksum, the daily lives of its people. For the Aksumite Empire wasn't merely a political force. It was a thriving society, a kingdom woven from the ambitions, beliefs, and labours of its people. Here in the bustling markets of Aksum, the hum of trade was constant, merchants selling spices, pottery, fine cloth, and precious stones, each trade adding weight to the empire's prosperity. Imagine the air thick with the scent of frankincense, with voices calling, deals struck, goods exchanged. Here the nobility mingled with merchants and craftsmen, a blend of power and industry that defined the essence of Aksum. Aksum was more than its markets and wealth. At its core, it was a society structured like an intricate mosaic, each piece essential to its beauty. At the very top stood the king, regarded as more than a ruler, a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a figure believed to carry the favour of gods. Below him, the noble families held lands, commanded troops, and ensured the kingdom's stability. They were guardians of tradition, leaders in times of war, and patrons of culture, their wealth flowing through the veins of the empire. Imagine a farmer rising before dawn, cultivating fields of barley and teff, the rhythm of the seasons dictating his life. Picture an artisan carefully crafting a vessel that would be used in households across the kingdom, its design reflecting a blend of function and beauty. These were the people who gave Aksum its strength, the merchants, artisans and farmers who filled the markets, streets and farmlands of the kingdom, each with a purpose, each contributing to the empire's legacy. Aksumite society was not a rigid hierarchy, but rather a delicate dance of mutual reliance. Nobles depended on merchants for wealth, artisans depended on farmers for sustenance, and all relied on one another for stability. This was a kingdom held together not just by power, but by the strength of these bonds, a balance where each person had their role, from the noble in his fine garments to the farmer in the fields. Family and faith were pillars of strength, the customs handed down through generations a reminder of who they were and the legacy they carried. This was the quiet strength of the Aksumite people, a strength that endured even as the world around them began to shift. And for the men and women who lived here, each day was a piece of history, a thread in the fabric of an empire that would one day stand as a testament to the spirit of ancient Africa. But what truly set Aksum apart from other ancient kingdoms was its place in the pulse of global trade. Picture a sprawling network of routes that stretched from the coasts of the Red Sea to the bustling markets of Rome, Persia and India. Ships laden with treasures from distant lands docked in Aksum's port city of Adulis, where merchants haggled over the prices of goods exotic and rare. Ivory, bound for the ornaments of Roman nobility. Gold, dazzling and pure, mined from African rivers. Frankincense and myrrh, their scent so valued it was once worth its weight in gold. Aksum didn't just trade with the world, it connected it. Imagine the vastness of Aksum's network, a web of routes that spread over continents with caravans crossing scorching deserts, rivers and mountains to reach this African powerhouse. Each transaction was more than an exchange of goods. It was an assertion of Aksum's power and influence, a way of saying, we are here and we are essential. This was a place where Africa's resources met the demands of empires, where one kingdom held the key to trade's heartbeat. But trade was more than economics for Aksum. It was a lifeline, a bridge, and a bond. Through its trade routes, Aksum forged alliances with distant civilizations, allies from the Arabian Peninsula to the Indian subcontinent. Every coin exchanged and every ship sent forth was an emblem of its autonomy and authority. Few African kingdoms minted their own currency, but Aksum's silver and gold coins traveled the world, stamped with symbols of kingship, faith, and prosperity. Imagine holding one of those coins, the cross of Christianity on one side, the face of Aksum's king on the other. It wasn't just currency, it was a declaration of independence, a message carried to the farthest reaches of the ancient world. Through these coins, Aksum's reputation grew, each one telling a silent story of a people both proud and powerful. Through trade, Aksum became more than an empire. It became a gateway, a crossroads, a link between cultures and continents. And trade carried more than goods. Ideas, beliefs and stories traveled with merchants and diplomats, making Aksum a melting pot of influence, a place where different worlds converged. Trade was, in a way, Aksum's diplomacy, an unspoken language connecting kingdoms. In its markets and ports, the empire wrote its legacy, not in conquest, but in commerce, its influence stretching far beyond its borders. Did you know that Aksum's reach once extended as far as the Roman Empire, influencing tastes, markets, and even the currencies that flowed through distant lands? If you journeyed through Aksum, towering above you would be colossal stone pillars piercing the sky, standing like silent sentinels over the empire. These stelae, monolithic and awe-inspiring, were more than mere markers. They were a testament to the architectural ambition and spiritual devotion of the Aksumite people. Some reached heights of over 30 meters, carved from a single stone, each one meticulously crafted to honor the dead and immortalize the royal lineage. How did a civilization without modern machinery build monuments that still stand today? This question has puzzled historians for centuries. Imagine the skill, the vision, the sheer human power needed to transport and erect these immense structures without the tools we take for granted. Each stela was a marvel of engineering, a feat of balance and strength that spoke of Aksum's understanding of both stone and spirit. For these were not just stones, they were symbols, each engraved with stories of power, of lineage, of connection between the earthly and the divine. But the stelae were only part of Aksum's architectural marvels. Beneath the ground lay the royal tombs, intricate, expansive, filled with relics and carvings that told tales of an empire that respected and revered its dead. The carvings on these tombs depicted Aksumite deities and celestial symbols, marking the tombs as spiritual spaces connecting life and the afterlife. These were the resting places of kings and nobles, sites of honor that reflected Aksum's deep belief in the continuity of life and legacy. The royal palaces, too, were architectural achievements, standing proudly above the landscape, built not only to house rulers, but to display the empire's grandeur to all who came. The palaces combined functional design with architectural beauty, with grand courtyards and halls that served as spaces for governance and celebration. Imagine walking among these monuments, feeling the weight of history, the echo of an ancient people who left their mark not in ink or on paper, but in stone, solid, and unyielding. Each pillar, each tomb, each palace was a testament to the spirit of Aksum, a civilization that understood the power of memory, of building not only for the present but for eternity. These architectural feats were the heartbeat of the empire, enduring even as the empire itself faded, silent witnesses to a greatness that refused to be forgotten. Today, when archaeologists uncover these stones, they are piecing together a story that speaks of ambition, faith, and remembrance. The Stelae stand as Aksum's last ambassadors, sentinels that guard a legacy of strength, resilience, and vision. Aksum's buildings, its tombs, its monuments, they were not built to last for years or decades, but for ages, to keep the story of Aksum alive for those who seek it. At the heart of Aksum's story is a remarkable transformation, a shift that would define its identity and cast a legacy that still resonates in Ethiopia today. Long before the grand conversions of the Western world, Aksum embraced Christianity, becoming one of the earliest states to do so. Imagine a kingdom where the ancient gods of Africa once held sway, where the sun, the moon, and the stars were revered as celestial guides. This was Aksum's world, a world bound to the rhythms of nature and the worship of deities like Astar and Mahrem, gods who were believed to shape the fates of the people. But in the 4th century, a change swept across this land, a light from distant lands, a new faith carried by travelers, traders, and priests. Under the rule of King Ezana, Aksum accepted Christianity, making a bold declaration to the world. Christianity wasn't just a new religion, it was a statement, a testament to Aksum's openness to new ideas and its courage to embrace transformation. Imagine the first Christian crosses being carved into stone, the first prayers rising to a single God, the ancient beliefs merging with a new spiritual vision. Yet, Aksum didn't simply adopt Christianity, it made it its own. Churches began to rise, beautiful structures that blended the sacred with the familiar. In these early churches, local artisans carved images that combined Christian symbols with Aksumite motifs, a fusion of faith and heritage. Coins that once bore the symbols of old gods were now marked with the cross, a powerful symbol, an indelible mark of Aksum's commitment to its new faith. For the people of Aksum, this wasn't just a conversion, it was an evolution, a blending of old and new that would lay the foundation for Ethiopian Christianity as it stands today. And this conversion wasn't only a personal journey for the people of Aksum, it was a powerful diplomatic signal. By aligning with Christian empires to the north, Aksum cemented its place in the early Christian world, respected and recognized by empires far beyond its borders. Did you know that Aksum's acceptance of Christianity helped establish it as a trusted ally of the Byzantine Empire? Through faith, Aksum formed bonds with distant lands, a network of allies unified not by borders but by beliefs. Today, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still holds the same reverence and rituals that began in Aksum's churches centuries ago. It's a living thread, an unbroken line from Aksum to the present, a testament to a faith that crossed borders, united cultures, and redefined a people. So when we see the symbols of Christianity across Ethiopia, we are looking not just at religious icons, but at the spirit of Aksum, at a faith that was not imported, but embraced, and that continues to live, shaping the culture and spirit of a nation. Aksum's influence was not only built on trade and faith, it was forged through the strength of its military and the skill of its leaders. For centuries, Aksum stood as a bastion in the Horn of Africa, an empire with eyes set not just on survival, but on expansion, on claiming its place as a dominant power in the ancient world. Its borders stretch far beyond its homeland, reaching across the Red Sea to Yemen and southward into Nubian lands, a reach that speaks to its ambitions and its might. But Aksum's military strength was more than numbers. It was a mastery of strategy, a deep understanding of the land and sea routes that connected kingdoms. The Aksumites defended their territories with well-trained infantry and skilled cavalry, their warriors adept at both offense and defense. They used the natural landscape to their advantage, building fortifications that guarded vital routes and protected their cities from potential invaders. Imagine the precision of Aksum's military leaders as they mapped the mountains, rivers and valleys, reading the land like a story written by nature itself. Conflict was not uncommon. The Red Sea was a contested space, and Aksum's influence was not welcomed by all. Their rivals, the Kingdom of Kush, the Arabian tribes, and at times even Roman allies, challenged their dominion. But Aksum's leaders knew the balance of force and diplomacy. When diplomacy failed, their armies marched, leaving a trail of victories that spoke to their resilience and tactical expertise. This was not an empire that expanded recklessly, but one that understood the power of both sword and olive branch. And when its power was at its zenith, it was not merely feared, but respected. Aksum was a beacon, a force of stability and control in a world that shifted like the desert sands. Its rulers knew that true power lay not just in conquest, but in safeguarding what had been won, in creating a realm that was prosperous, peaceful and secure for generations to come. Imagine then the soldiers, the generals, the leaders who served to protect and expand the borders of this empire. For Aksum, military might was more than strength. It was a duty, a service to a kingdom that would one day be remembered not for its wars, but for the peace that followed them. Every empire has its twilight, and for Aksum, the sun began to set as the tides of history shifted around it. For centuries, Aksum had stood strong, an empire both feared and admired, but even the most enduring legacies are not immune to the forces of change. Imagine an era where trade routes that once pulsed with life grew quiet, where the flow of wealth that had sustained the empire began to dwindle. The rise of Islamic powers along the Arabian coast shifted control over the Red Sea, severing Aksum's crucial trade connections and redirecting the ancient currents of commerce. But trade alone wasn't the sole cause of Aksum's decline. Environmental changes, shifts in climate that parched the land and made farming ever more difficult, took their toll. Crops that once flourished began to falter, and the agricultural foundation that had fed the empire's people and armies began to weaken. The land itself seemed to turn against Aksum, a silent adversary eroding the roots of a once flourishing kingdom. Some historians suggest internal strife may have played a role, as local power struggles fractured the stability that Aksum had long maintained. Imagine an empire once united by purpose and prosperity, now pulled apart by competing interests and ambitions. The capital itself began to shift, with later kings moving inland to escape the vulnerabilities of coastal trade routes. Aksum, the great beacon of Africa's past, began to fade, slipping into a quieter existence, its cities left to the sands and stones. Yet Aksum's legacy didn't vanish with its decline. Its mark endures in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which still holds the rituals and beliefs that took root here, in the Ge'ez script, still studied as a sacred language, and in the stories passed down by generations who remember Aksum's days of glory. And today, when archaeologists uncover relics of its past, they find not just artifacts, but reminders of an empire that once connected Africa to the world. Imagine a farmer in modern-day Ethiopia, speaking a language that traces back to Aksum, practicing rituals that began here thousands of years ago. Aksum may have fallen, but its spirit lives on, a testament to an African civilization that once stood proud and strong, a light that may have dimmed, but never truly died. So when we speak of Aksum today, we speak not of ruins, but of resilience, not of decline, but of a legacy that has shaped the heart and soul of Ethiopia. And so, we return to the question we began with. Why has history, with all its tales of empires and conquerors, kept Aksum in the shadows? Perhaps it's because Aksum's story, like its towering Stelae, stands a little apart, away from the familiar tales of Rome, Greece and Persia. But here, in the Horn of Africa, was a kingdom every bit as vibrant, as influential and as enduring. Here was an empire that understood the power of trade, of faith and of resilience. Here was a people who carved their stories in stone, who saw faith not as a conquest but as a calling, who minted their own currency and stamped their own place in the world. Today, as we rediscover Aksum, we're not just uncovering history, we're challenging the narratives that have long defined our understanding of the ancient world. Aksum reminds us that Africa, too, was home to empires of grandeur, to innovations and achievements that connected continents. Its legacy is a reminder of the richness and complexity of African history, of a past that deserves to be celebrated, not forgotten. So let us remember Aksum, not just as a chapter in history, but as a symbol of resilience, ambition and influence, a kingdom that rose from the highlands of Ethiopia to become a powerhouse that left its mark on the world. Let us look upon its stelae, its coins, its churches, and remember the story of Aksum is not just the story of Africa. It's the story of us all. Perhaps it is a reminder that, in the end, true power lies not in the might of an empire, but in the strength of its legacy, in the stories it leaves behind for generations to come.